go. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back for my last day here of Asking the Designer at the Gathering 2018. So right now I'm here with Richard Breese. You know him from the Key series and other things. So if you have questions for him, just start putting them in the chat room and we'll see them. But for now, so you kind of had a long career with your Key series, haven't you?
Indeed. So good morning, Jason.
Good morning.
Thanks for your time. Indeed, the first Key game came out in 1995. That was Keywood. And that was a game that was published after I first discovered German or Euro games, as we call them. And it was named after a gentleman called Keywood Chivies, who was an American gamer and still is.
Mm-hmm.
And we played a game called Waldemeister on the Hans and Gluck stand at Essen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking for a character that I could name the game after, and Keywood was such an unusual name. I'd not come across it before, and happily it had a wonderful prefix which has been I've able to link the subsequent games in. At the time I didn't obviously realise there was going to be a whole series of games, but that's the way it turned out. And it's been a nice journey, and I've stayed in touch with Keywood since.
Oh, that's really cool. I mean, for those who didn't know where the name came from, and then you only kept the key part. So what made you decide to keep the key part for every, like, Cathedral, Keyflower, Key Dome? You've just kept the key part all along.
It just doesn't evolve that way. The first game, Keywood, was set in the lands which became known as the Keydom, and that was a snappy title for the second game. Keydom, generally recognised as the first worker placement game, which is very nice, and that got remade into Aladdin's Dragons, or Morganland, with Hans and Gluck and Z-Man, and that was quite a successful game. And following that, we had Keytown, as you say, Cathedral, and we've moved on from there. But it just works as a sort of a sub-brand, if you like.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have other games like Inhabit the Earth and other games that don't have the key in it.
That's right. The key games, they become key games because they've got certain similar characteristics. So the games that they're largely worker placement games, you're dealing with a scale where you're dealing with workers or keepers doing activities within a land. All the interaction of the game is through the game mechanism, apart from the very first one, Keywood. So there's no direct take that to another player, which I'm not that fond of. Everything that happens in the games tends to be positive, so I try to take out any negative aspects in the game. Try to make the games creative, so you're not there's not too much luck dependent, but I like a little bit of uncertainty, if you like. Depending on what you do, then you know the results may be this or maybe
yes So Jason, who's watching, is asking if there's any news on Keyflower, the reprints of Key Market and Cathedral. So do you have any news about any reprints?
The game that's likely to be reissued, first of all, will be Key Market. My target is to publish that hopefully by the end of the year, and if not by the beginning of next year. But it's something that I've been discussing with David, and it's unfortunately I'm a one-man band, and it's a part-time job for me. So it's one game at a time. What I'm doing at the moment is working towards the Essen release for this year, and I'm seeing Key Market as following the reprint, following that up. There is a geek list which has got if you like, a waiting list of people on there, which is fairly easy to find, and I will put an announcement on there as soon as there is something. It may make sense to do it as a Kickstarter. I'm not sure yet, but there will be some news later on this year on that.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So Jason actually he didn't mean Keyflower. He meant Keyflow, the new card version.
Okay, Keyflow is very much in the works at the moment. That's what's taking my time.
Yes.
I have it here at the gathering, and
Which means I'll get to play it. I'll tell you guys all about how amazing it is.
it's had very positive feedback, which is nice. I've got to so big thanks to Ian Vincent and Sebastian Bleasdale, who are the co-designers on the game. The game originated obviously from Keyflower, but Ian Vincent, who's been one of my regular playtesters for a while, was determined to create a version of the game that he would be able to beat Sebastian and me at. And he is a very accomplished card player, and he showed us his ideas, and we've played around them quite a bit. We've changed the structure of the game, but I have had it here at the gathering, and it's been getting very good feedback, so I'm very happy with that. And almost certainly that will be released at Essen this year. 2018.
Yes, no, you had told me a little about this. Yeah, you told me a little about this one yesterday, where it's kind of a drafting style game.
Yes, it obviously lends something to Seven Wonders in that you play over 4 seasons. It'll be very familiar to anybody that has played Keyflower. The iconography is the same. The village that you're creating is 2 rows of cards. And at the top row you've got a road running through it. The bottom row you've got a river flowing at the bottom, and the game flows very smoothly. And Keyflow is a slight abbreviation of Keyflower, so there were 3 reasons to call it Keyflow.
And the shorter playing time, that could be a 4th reason.
Yeah, it plays, if you know the game, you'll be playing in half an hour, 45 minutes. In spring you have 6 cards. You draft one of the cards, you place the next 5 cards go to the neighbour on your left, and the play a card, and you play all the cards out. There are some what we call keeple tokens, so if there are no cards that you want, you can discard a card to take a token. And the tokens can be used in a couple of different ways, but one of them is to give you additional turns at the end of the season. Again, everything is positive. You're interacting with the neighbours on your left, on your right. So above the top layer of cards, there are spaces where you put your keeple cards, and these are green in spring, yellow in summer, red in autumn, blue in winter. And you can activate each card up to 3 times, depending on the number of keeples on your card. But you can also activate cards in your neighbour to your right and to your left. So in a 4-player game, you won't be interacting with the player opposite, but you will be interacting with those on each side. And that keeps sometimes as people struggle a little bit to see what's happening on the other side of the Keyflower board, but this one eliminates that and eliminates the bidding. The bidding as such is through the use restriction of the 3 times, so you're still conscious about who's using which cards in your village and your neighbour's village, so there is a little bit of pressure on how quickly or which one you want to prioritise. But I think if you enjoy Keyflower, you will very much enjoy Keyflow as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to playing it. I know we kind of talked about playing it tomorrow, so I'm very excited about it. So Zinni has an interesting question here. How many times do you usually solo playtest before playtesting with a whole group when you create a game?
That's an interesting question. I don't tend to play very much on my own. I'm fortunate that there's 2 or 3 gaming friends who are sort of dedicated playtesters, and normally I have the ideas, and then we run those through, and very quickly you discover what works, what doesn't work, and you try not to change too much between each playing, otherwise you don't really get to appreciate those aspects which are working best. But certainly when Keyflower was developed, and that was developed primarily with Sebastian, we played a lot of games 2-player, and I think it's one of my favourite 2-player games, especially when with the Merchants expansion is included. Mm-hmm. I think it shines at that. Keyflower as well will play, it scales very well from 2 to 6, so it's got quite a wider player number count. But generally, I will sit down and I'll work things through. I'll have the ideas, and then it's usually a case of sitting down with one of my playtesting friends and then working those ideas through. So I think whilst not playing on my own, there is quite a lot of time that I dedicate to actually creating the bits, and that it's. Someone once said to me, some of your games tend to come out quite well evolved, and I think certainly if we take Keeper for example, there was, in my mind, I was sort of working through various scenarios, making notes, thinking that I could, get an appreciation of what I think will probably work, creating the pieces and then actually trying them out. But there's a lot of gestation period, if you like, before the first game really hits the table quite often.
So speaking of that, Otter has a question. He says, when designing a game, do you envision a graphical layout of the game? And then here's the part for you that wouldn't make sense. Or do you leave that to the publisher? Now you self-publish your games, so when you design a game, do you envision the graphical layout of the game and how you want it to look?
Yes, it's a good question. I do. I'm a little bit different in that as Jason mentioned, I actually self-publish the games, and up until a couple of years ago, my sister Juliet was doing the artwork for the game. She sends me the artwork, and then I spend way too much time on Photoshop creating the graphics and integrating her drawings, which I love doing, and that's why you'll find every sort of square inch of the box bottom sides with details on as well. I like to use all the space that I've got. The Key series games are all set in this sort of semi-medieval landscape, so that is, I'm happy with that. It's a little bit, I think the style's a little bit different from most games. Sort of, some people say sort of slightly children's book style, but I like that because to me it's part of the sort of the friendly appeal of those games. Inhabit the Earth, which was a fairly recent one, I had in my mind the cover very early on as a tribute to a very early Wolfgang Kramer game called Wildlife Adventure, and the cover is a crib on that. And it was interesting because I put a copy on the price table at the gathering today and early on in the week, and Alan Moon came up to me and he instantly recognised it as Wildlife Adventure, but hadn't seen the Inhabit the Earth game before, and it was nice that someone from sort of the older gaming generation saw the connection quite quickly on that.
Yes.
Key to the City London, which was another slightly different one recently. I was fortunate enough to find a designer, an artist who had a particular style which I enjoyed, and she was kind enough to do the illustrations for that. So early on in the process, yes, I've got a clear idea probably of what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I think you're going to. Funny when you're going to throw me off because Jason's looking over his shoulder.
I'm looking and I'm seeing Scott Nicholson. So let me finish up with Richard. But if you have questions for Scott, start getting prepared. But for now, besides Keyflower, what else do you have in the works?
Keyflower is the one for this year, and the other game that I've been testing here is an expansion for Keeper, which was last year's release. There's a number of different ideas in there. There's a fishing aspect to it. There's a non-coterminous season end for each of the players, and there's also a very dangerous tile called the Leader, which is quite interesting to play.
No, I'm looking forward to both of them now. I mean, Keeper was a good game, so it'll be nice to have an expansion for that, and of course this new card version sounds very, very interesting. I'm looking forward to playing it tomorrow.
I hope you do so. Thank you very much for your time, Jason.
Yes, well, thank you too for coming on, Richard.
Thank you very much for your questions as well.
Yes.
Have a good day.
Yes, you too. Well, thank you so much, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you all.
So we have Scott Nicholson coming up here in just a minute. Richard, your phone. Richard, Scott, tell Richard his phone. And we have Scott Nicholson coming up. who is not only a good designer but also does a lot of other things.
Other things?
Yes, you kind of teach game theory, and you did a thing for our cruise last year.
That's right, on the Dice Tower cruise.
Which was really interesting about how to design a game. Tell me a little bit about what else you do, because I think that our audience would be very interested in this.
Sure. So I guess for those of you that don't know me, my name is Scott Nicholson. I am a professor of game design and development at, I can show.
No.
Laurier. Say it, Laurier.
Yes, we're back. I'm gonna have to tip this thing a few times just to make sure we're still.
I also caused grief.
Shot.
So I was the first person on YouTube to talk about board games back in 2005. I started Board Games with Scott a very long time ago. But did that for 5 years, and then was at Syracuse University as a library school professor before. There we go. See that everything's fine. So I was a library school professor and explored games in libraries. Then I went off to MIT for a year and did a lot more with games, and decided, I want to make focusing on teaching people about games my life. So I began looking for opportunities, and a school in Canada, Wilfrid Laurier University, invited me to come up. They are starting a brand new game program, and they invited me to kick that off. And so I did and stepped in and said, we're going to make games to change the world. And that's what we do. And so in the program, our goal is to help students learn how to make games with real-world outcomes. They still have to make fun games, but the games have some sort of learning outcomes. And so that's what I've been teaching for the last 3 years. The program's 3 years old. But then I also have some board games I've designed, showing a new board game here, actually with a bit of a learning outcome, and then I make escape rooms. That's the other big thing that I do. And so I design escape rooms we're designing the Red Bull Escape Room World Championship Season 2 as we speak. In fact, as soon as we finish up here, I've got to go up and get on a phone call with Vienna to present the ideas we've been developing with our students for the last 3 months. Design games for Prime Video, which is the video shows you watch through Amazon for an event going on in Berlin. And but what's most important to me is helping everyone learn how to make games, and that's what I did on the Dice Tower cruise. I made a game jam for families.
Okay, before we get into that, did you just say the Red Bull Escape Room Challenge?
So last year was the first ever Red Bull Escape Room World Championship. So 24 teams came to Budapest and competed with each other, and with Laurier students, we made the games. We designed everything, and I was on. If you go to redbull.tv, you can watch the show. It was at the coolest setting I'd ever been in. They had one of those cool singer performer mics, and they actually told me what to wear, every item of clothing to wear. My persona was the professor, and so I was a commentator on the show. They've decided to do their next season, the next World Championship, that's going to happen sometime when I can't say. There's lots of I can't say, but we have been designing for the last few months, again with groups of students from Wilfrid Laurier University, what's going to happen next time.
No, I think that's awesome. I mean, when you're getting involved with, when these big companies outside of gaming are getting involved, when you have Red Bull getting involved, it's kind of very neat. Me and Tom, and we kind of always joke about how we're drinking so much Bai water on all of the shows that we should get Bai to sponsor us, but it's cool that Red Bull got involved in this. How did that partnership come about?
Well, Red Bull's slogan is body and mind, and they've been doing lots of body events. They wanted to do some mind events, and so one of the things that's very Red Bull-ish are escape rooms. Yeah, we're gonna make a Red Bull escape room. So this all kicked off actually at MIT in 2015, where they had an escape room game jam. So Red Bull came. They invited people to come and make escape rooms in 2 days, and invited me to come and give the opening talk about escape rooms, because as a professor, that is also my research area. Mm-hmm. So I'm the leading researcher on escape rooms, and I had done some worldwide studies of what's going on. So they invited me to give a talk, and then at that point they said, if we're going to do this, we want you to be the lead on the design team. So that's how it got started. Now also Red Bull is now running the Rubik's Cube championships. So they partner with Rubik's. So they're continuing. And what I like, if actually you go to Red Bull Mind Gamers, it's a subsidiary of them. Their website has all sorts of mind puzzles and mind games. They're putting out articles about game design of all sorts. So they're really getting deeply into games and mind games. And because Red Bull does a lot of events, they want to help people understand that it's just as important to exercise your mind as it is to exercise your body. So it's actually an exciting opportunity for us to see this connection point between what we're doing and getting the word out. And that's why I've been so involved.
Yes, I think that's amazing. And I'm envisioning it now. The Red Bull presents the Dice Tower Extreme Gaming Championship.
That's right.
We're gonna figure this out.
And we're going to be gaming 36 hours a day with Red Bull.
If you drink Red Bull, I mean, I can imagine if all of the contestants in the escape rooms were drinking Red Bull beforehand, and they were just like, I need to look at this, I need to look at that, and they were just hyped
Well,
up.
that's how I was. Because at this event, so we were behind the scenes the whole time. So we were watching the competitors play and helping to run the games, and everywhere was Red Bull. And so there were just cans of Red Bull everywhere. And at the end, I was like, yeah, let's do this!
That's very, very interesting. So Ross has a question here. Have you or are you planning on designing any escape rooms in a box, similar to Exit and Unlock?
So I have done that, but a different approach. A lot of folks have not heard of Breakout EDU. So breakoutedu.com is a escape room toolkit for educators. So the idea is through Breakout EDU, you get this platform, and the platform is a box, a series of locks, blacklight, USB key, and things like that. And then people can create games for that platform, which then can be uploaded to the Breakout EDU website. And other teachers can download them, print out the stuff, and play the game. There's hundreds of games now at breakoutedu.com for free that teachers can print out and try. And I've got a game there that I made called Ballot Box Bumble. And so the idea of this is I had just moved to Canada, and I wanted to get a better understanding of the Canadian electoral system. So I created a game where you were going into the back room of a polling place. You were a volunteer. The polling place was closing. Elections Canada was going to call in 20 minutes. It was a 20-minute game. And you had to go, and the poll manager was gone, and so you're trying to figure out what was going on. And so I created that game, put it out there. I actually showed it at an event, the Meaningful Play Gaming Conference, which has a gaming competition. So you got your digital games and non-digital games, and I won Best Non-Digital Game with this Breakout game, which I was very happy with. But yeah, so if you want to see it, you can get it for free. If you go to breakoutedu.com, you will have to make an account. But once you have an account, you can get access to all these free games. If you're a teacher or an educator, or you're a homeschooler, it's a great resource for homeschoolers. Once you have the platform, once you have a box and you can print out all these great games. It's also a great resource to get kids making. Escape rooms are very tangible things. And so I've used this model as game jams for classrooms, where I go in, I show the kids, okay, here's what we've got to work with. You know, you've got a 3-digit lock, a 4-digit lock, you've got a word lock that could make these words, you've got a black light. We're going to make a game about Julius Caesar, okay? And you're going to make a series of puzzles and challenges that things are locked in a box. Go! And it's amazing how that platform and being so tangible, kids can create, and kids and adults too, but you know, I really like having family game things where the family makes the game together. And then what I get are these stories of, we liked it so much that for Dad's birthday, the kids got together and made him an escape box, and we locked the presents up, and Dad had to solve the puzzles. So yeah, check out breakoutedu.com if you want to explore a very different take in the escape room world.
So speaking of families and getting families together, Otter has a question here. Have you tried letting kids design escape rooms for other kids? I can imagine it as being an ideal tryout ground for wannabe game designers.
Yeah, so I've used this model. We worked with a local classroom where the instructor brought the students to our game lab, and we split them into groups, and we had them all make escape challenges, and then they all played each other's, and they all found how hard it is to make a reasonable set of challenges. If you make an escape room, by the way, the first thing I'll tell you, your guide is, you've made it too hard. So it's number one. It's before you test it, you've made it too hard, and that's where it goes. But I teach an escape room design class at Laurier, so I get students who are making those games, making for each other. We made a big community event. So it's not just escape rooms, but we make these theatrical events where you have actors taking on roles from history. People wander around the town and talk to actors and engage with puzzles. And so that was a big event we ran last year in Brantford, Ontario, where I live, celebrating something that happened in Brantford 150 years ago.
Yeah, so let's go on to more of the family. And this is going to be going back to the cruise. So tell everyone who didn't know this what you did for the cruise and how you interacted with our guests there.
Yeah, so for the Dice Tower cruise, I ran a family game jam. And so the way it worked is we worked with Panda, who supplied great prototyping materials. And many times it is nice to have some interesting materials to work with that can inspire. We invited people to come and either sit with folks they didn't know or bring their family together. We have both types that showed up. We had some families and we had some people that were strangers before they came. And they spent an afternoon making a game. And I led them through the process of how do you do that. And they all made games to change the world. That was my inspiration to them, is I want you to pick a topic area and pick something you'd like to motivate people to do. And you're going to make a game around that. So we had people at tables who had something they knew that they wanted to share. Then through about 3 hours, they developed these games. They had some time to play test each other's games, because it's something that's always important to get people looking at ideas. And what they didn't know is behind the scenes, you were quite devious. So they had been working very hard and coming up with these ideas. And then, well, a few people began to wander in. Some of the folks that were game publishers that were there on the cruise began to wander in, and you saw some nudging of people. Hey, what are they doing here? And then I told them they were all to have their games ready at a certain point, and then I announced, by the way, you're now going to be pitching your games, and we have a few guests who will get to hear it. And so they got to actually pitch their games they just made to game publishers. And you just saw in the gamers, you saw the color drain from their faces. In the kids, they didn't care. They were like, awesome, someone's going to listen to our game. And so that's what happened. And we ran it early in the cruise because the hope, and it did happen, is that some of the groups would keep their games and would continue to bring them out and play them. And I saw some of the groups continue with their games, showing it, especially the families, where they get to continue to develop this thing. And that's a suggestion you can do. You don't have to wait for an event to do this. Get your kids, get a stack of index cards, go to the thrift store, buy a couple games, use the parts of that, and make a game together. Make it a family design activity, something that you can create. It's a meaningful thing that will continue. It'll give you some great memories. It gets kids making games. And so get your family together and make a game together.
Yeah, you're going to have to teach me sometime how to make a game. I always say how, I don't think I could ever design a game, but maybe you'll help me out and I'll have a game come out one day.
Well, there's a big gap between designing a game for a game jam and having it come out. The thing about with games is the first 50% is easy. The next 20% is not that hard, and many games ship at that point. That's the thing. You get a lot of these games, and we're playing. It's like this really needed more development. But the last 10% takes 90% of the work.
Yes.
And that's the hard work time, that grinding and refining. And so that's where a lot of games, they stop that and put them out, and that's why we have games that have issues. But that last part is the hard part.
Yes, I already have an idea for what I would call my game. Jason's Game of Awesomeness. What do you think?
I think it's a Kickstarter. And, it needs to have one very large miniature. A large miniature of you that you put in the middle, just being awesome, and then everyone is just striving towards awesomeness. It could actually be like a 3D board, or they're kind of walking up you, and you've got like a hand, and you're going to they win by high-fiving you, and they have to earn their way up. See, there's the win. We just did what I call body storming. So body storming is where you use your bodies to brainstorm. So with the game lab that I have, I ask for everything on wheels. So when we start brainstorming, especially if we're doing any game that's digital or any game in an escape room or anything like that, even I've done it with tabletop games, which is how Going, Gone became as physical as it was, is you want to get people body storming, moving around the space and thinking with their bodies, because it gets you out of this just sitting there with a few ideas. When you start body storming, that concept of what we just did, that could inspire the whole game. What if the whole game was about physicalness, physical poses, engaging with other players in interesting ways? So get out of your chair and body storm a little bit.
They want to buy my game. Look, you see all the comments there. They want it.
Put it on Kickstarter. I think you're good. And the stretch goal could be you are reaching out to high five because your arm's stretching. See, it's a stretch goal, and it actually makes the game. See how that works?
Well, interestingly enough, my next guest that'll be coming up very shortly happens to work for Cool Mania or not now. Maybe we could work on this game.
I think it's a great...
I'm going to get everyone here to work together.
It should be a lot of little pose questions here and say, have you ever thought Jason's Game of Awesomeness would be a thing to do?
Yeah, so like I said, Eric Lang will be coming up here very, very shortly, but let me leave you with one quick question is, I know right now you're not coming back to Dice Tower Cruise, but I think our fans want you back so we could do this more. How are we going to get you back?
Well, here's the problem with Dice Tower Cruise. I'm a cruiser. I love to cruise, and I cruise quite a bit, 3 or 4 times a year I go on a cruise. I also like to go to board game events. And what I found with Dice Tower Cruise is it had too much awesome. There was
Too much
It was
awesome.
too much awesome. The cruise, the con part of the cruise was incredible. It was a really good con, but the cruise part of the cruise was also incredible, and I was overwhelmed. And so for me, I came away saying, I found myself torn. It's like I want to go hang out with cool people and play interesting games, but I want to do all the other stuff that's on this ship, and I can't do both. And I found myself frustrated and saying, I would like the con to be the con thing. So I'm at a boring hotel and I don't really know anything else. I just want to do the con thing. And the cruise to be the cruise thing, and I can go and enjoy the cruise spaces. And so I know I've heard that some interest in perhaps taking over an entire ship and making all of the programming.
That's my dream.
So when all the programming now, there isn't the awesome things on the ship are the awesome things of the con, well then I don't have that frustration. I don't have that torn of wanting to do both. So that was my frustration. It was too much awesome for me, and I couldn't handle it.
Well, if you guys think it's too much awesome, all I know is send me emails. Send me emails that you want Scott back, and I'm going to forward all those emails to him. This way he'll know how much you guys want him to be there. And maybe convince him that he wants all this awesomeness. But thank you so much for coming out,
Thank you
Scott,
very much.
Coming
Hello,
on.
goodbye to everyone.
Eric Lang is about to walk on the set here, so get your questions ready for Eric, and we're gonna have lots of fun here. I see him here, and here he comes. We don't have any questions yet, but as you can see, the very first thing came out. So there you go, Dutch Yoda. That was for you. So I guess the first question is,
Hello.
Hi Eric.
How are you, Jason?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm doing well.
That
That was your first question. You only get one first question.
Oh, you ruined it now. You always get me. Every time.
It's my job.
So my second question is, how are we going to make this giant Jason mini for Jason's Game of Awesomeness?
I hate fun. And so I'm going to now tell you about all the problems with your game.
Here we go, from a good designer telling me how I'm going to be a poor designer.
Oh, no, I think it's fine. I just think that the subject matter, I think what we should do is we should make it a hybrid, like some chimera of you, Tom, Z, and Sam, just intertwined.
Ooh.
And you end up with those like twisted arms, and you can have roots and stuff. That'll be cool.
We're gonna have an awesome game by the end of this day. But in all seriousness, you've been as people know or don't know, you are now working for CMON, and it's been about a year or so.
Actually, it was exactly a year because my first day at CMON was here at the gathering last year.
So how has this past year been for you? Tell us about the change.
Exciting, and crazy, and fluid, and all. I mean, 80% what I expected, 20% what I didn't, and that was surprising because I was expecting it to be less of what I expected, if that makes sense. So, I've been doing the thing I do, a little bit less just making games. Like, I've limited myself to doing about one game a year, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to spend a little bit more time with one game and just go end to end, soup to nuts, all the way through the completion, into production, into graphics, be a pain in everybody's ass. Sorry, everybody's butt.
Bleeped out.
So I've spent a fair amount of time working on the other games in the catalog with our dev team. Very, very involved at the beginning, very, very involved at the end, and in the middle, just mostly supervising and directing while the team does their excellent work. So we last year at this show, I think this is our through line here for the interview. So last year I signed Gizmos, which from Phil Walker Harding, which is his prototype is called Inventors. I signed it there, and we're showing it here, production-ready files, ready to go. So it's that full year of development and product design has been a pretty good metaphor for what I've been doing at CMON. That game, I did a little bit of development. I did some direction. I pushed the dev team and Phil into some slightly different directions to make it more of a CMON type product. I did a retheme for it, renamed the game, sort of directed the product design and the creative design, and I think we got a really fantastic game out of this, and I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that part of the work.
I think that everything about it, like Phil's original design and your development, it's more than a fantastic game. I've already played it 5 times here. I don't know if you know this.
I did not know
I've
that.
played it 5 times. I absolutely
Did you
love
win
this
every
game.
single time?
No, I didn't.
Okay, because you usually do. You
Well,
usually do.
what happened was the first time I played it was with Eric Martin.
Okay. Oh yeah, but he's played. He's got a lot of experience on you because he's played.
No, I beat him,
Oh, okay.
but he taught me a rule wrong.
Oh, Eric.
He
Eric.
told me you only could chain things, so if you do pick, you only could chain the pick things. He didn't tell me that if you do a pick thing further down the chain, that it then goes over to your build thing, and then you could chain and chain and chain, and you get mega chains.
Yeah, that's the game.
So when when Colin played it with me the second time, he wailed on me because I was building things based on what Eric had told me.
I see.
But then, since then, I've been doing very well at it. I love the chaining. I love. Now this one has marbles. For those who don't know.
Moral of the story: Eric Martin, learn your rules.
Yes, Eric Martin, learn your rules. This one has marbles, and it's got double step because either you're going to take the marbles you want, which you can use to spend, or you got to dig into a deep bowl and pick out random marbles.
Right.
But you can still use them because you have little contraptions that can change the color of a marble and all sorts of things.
That's right.
Where you could.
One of my favorite parts of the game. Sorry to interrupt. But one of my favorite parts of the game is when you spend a marble from your thing. Like what I love to do is just
toss it back.
Yeah, toss it
Yes.
basketball style back into the thing.
Yes. And this little marble holder is so great, and it's
a gizmo.
It is a gizmo. It's a gizmo on its own. That's what's really cool about it. I mean, this one I really think it's gonna be a hit. I think it's gonna go very well in the light Euro crowd or the light gaming crowd.
I think so. That's what we're going for. We're going for it's not quite gateway, but it's pseudo gateway, right?
90% gateway, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't consider too many non-gamers first game, but it's definitely a good transitional step for people who have just started getting into the world of gaming and want to get something a little bit meatier. But I think it's my favorite thing about the game is it's truly a family game. It is well balanced for kids and for adults.
Yes, and it's fun and it's a blast.
I like it a lot. Phil, you're awesome.
Yes, Phil, you are. Phil was on yesterday.
Oh, check this out. Dice Tower exclusive news.
Yes.
I signed another Phil Walker Harding game here this week, or not this week, yesterday, and it's going to come out next year.
I've heard about this one.
It's a tradition. I can't say anything.
I didn't get to play it. I'm not going to say anything.
It's fantastic.
But of
course it is. It's amazing.
I know. When I asked Phil to play it, he said, "Oh, the publisher already has it. You might have to talk to them." Yeah. I might have to play this later in the week.
No, you won't. Not until we've done some development on it.
All I know is I heard the story about this, that another publisher walked by as Phil was showing it to you and said, "Oh, I missed a meeting. Phil, could I still look at the game?" And that you jumped up and said, "Nope, he's already mine."
Nope. Yep.
This is what happens when you put Eric in charge. He takes care of things immediately. He's like, mine, all mine.
Well, when I look at a lot of games, and I'm really, really, really picky because I don't want to do too many games. But when you find something special, there's no reason to wait. Like I want it. I'm going to get it.
Yes. So let's see what kind of questions we have here from our audience. Okay, so
Jason's Game of Awesomeness.
Yes, we already made a name. This is great, and you could help develop it for me, Eric. We've got an idea here.
Sure.
Okay, so were you here's about Rising Sun. A few questions. Let me get to them. Were you in any way prepared for how much hype Rising Sun got during the process?
Little bit. So yeah, a little bit. I mean, I was working. I had the original concept for Rising Sun while I was working on Blood Rage. Mm-hmm. I knew it was going to be a thing. So even at that time, I didn't know how big Blood Rage was going to be. So while I was working on Rising Sun, I was just like, I want to make this game. So at the beginning, no way, not at all. By the time we hit Kickstarter and I saw how successful Blood Rage was, I was like, uh-oh, yes, I knew there's going to be hype, but and especially seeing how gorgeous the game is, right? But I was mostly fear at that point, right? I'm like, oh my god, like when a game is, I'm a little bit like Ignacy over there, where if a game gets too hyped, you're not going to meet expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, no, all right, just quiet it down. It's just a game. Don't expect it to be like the second coming of Blood Rage. And don't expect it to be Blood Rage. It's a very different game. But I try not to worry about stuff I can't control. Right? Hype is going to be what it is. I just make the best game that I possibly can, and if I love it, we put it out.
Yes. Speaking of that, Ross is asking here, any news on the final game in the Blood Rage Rising Sun trilogy? Is that even a thing?
It is. It in fact is. I am working on the third game in that series right now. I in fact have a working prototype for it. And no,
Ooh.
Part 1, no, you cannot play it. Number 2, it's don't hold your breath. It's going to be a while. It's done when it's done. It's going to be a long time.
Are you sure I can't play it?
I'm sure you can't play it. It's not ready. It's not ready.
By next year, this time, I'm going to be playing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but
Yes.
next year, for sure you'll be playing it.
Okay, so let's see what else. Let's get past this. Jason Game of Awesomeness. Oh, speaking of Ignacy, any project together with Ignacy in the future, your miniatures games together with his crazy ideas would be awesome.
So Ignacy and I actually did work on a project last year, 2 years ago. God, I don't even remember. Before I started at CMON, we did do a lot of work on this really ambitious. I hate using the word innovative, but it was pretty fresh, very ambitious, fresh game. But then I started with. Before we finished the game, I was starting with CMON, so I had to stop. So Ignacy's finishing it. But I mean, it was a true collaboration up until the point where I had to leave. We had it working, ready to go. Ignacy's just doing his thing and fine tuning, and it's going to take a long time. I mean, I would be surprised if you see anything about it this year. Like these type of games are, especially with him working on it, it takes a very, very, very long time to develop.
Yeah, but there you go, folks. You might have something from Eric and Ignacy combination shortly, or
not shortly,
longly.
Yeah.
So Captain Bunny has a question here.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever considered creating a family-friendly, lightweight version of any of your big games like Blood Rage?
Nope.
Nope. So there you go. You're not getting Blood Rage the dice game anytime soon.
Well, Blood Rage exists. It's there. I love it. I don't want to really tinker with it too much. I mean, of course, I think about stuff like this all the time, but I have X amount of bandwidth, and I don't. I work on fewer games every year, and right now I'm pretty focused on the collaboration I'm doing with Rob Davio, which is going to be kickstarting later this year. I'm very, very focused on that, and I have some co-designs that I've started with before CMON that are now starting to hit our Kickstarter schedule. So I don't have the bandwidth, honestly.
So we have another question here. Oh, there you go. Thank you for the many hours of happiness. Look at that. We even got a donation because of you.
Oh,
thank you, Eric.
Oh, thank you. I don't want to.
Ottar Kramer.
Ottar Kramer. So it's probably German, actually.
Swedish.
I
know this because I thought he was German the other day.
The currency.
Oh.
Well, Kramer is German too, but it would be K-R-A umlaut.
Okay, so we have a few other questions. Any plans for any expansions to The Godfather?
No. I designed, very, very specifically designed Godfather to be a closed, end-to-end experience. I mean, it's got room for expansion if we need it, but I haven't. And of course, I always have notes. I've got notes for everything. So if we need to expand the game, I know where to do it. But I really like how tight and complete the game is.
Yes.
So I don't see a reason to. I'm not going to do it for just commercial reasons. If I can think of a really, really good, if I can think of a really compelling reason to make the game, to do something more than just add more gameplay to make more money, I will think about it. But until then, no.
Well, I can see it now. The first expansion we called The Godfather 2. This is awesome. and the third one we called Godfather 3. Don't play this one.
Wow. I mean, I don't disagree, but wow.
So Rolling Thunder has a question here. How did you get involved in creating games, and what led you to where you are today?
Great shows like the Dice Tower Network. Instrumental in all that success. But I mean, how did I get started? I've been playing games forever since I was a little kid with my grandmother in Germany. It's difficult for me to pinpoint the transition from gamer to professional because I've just always been making games. So I wish I could give you like this is a clean answer for that, but this is what I do.
So Martin's asking about living card games. You did the Star Wars game a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Any more living card games? And you obviously did Dice Masters as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking to get back into that and do like living card games or any kind of collectible games?
No comment. Sorry.
Oh, here we go. Another interesting question. Any news about Victorian masterminds?
Yes. So I just looked at a white sample from the factory. White sample being like all of the pieces with just white cardboard with no graphics on it, so we can play with them, touch them. It's coming along. We're redoing the graphics and a lot of the, not so much the art, but we're doing redoing the artistic presentation. So it's done when it's done. I'm a little bit hands off because Antoine and I have worked on this game for so long. I briefed the graphic designer, briefed the artist, and the producers are now doing their thing. And as soon as we hit milestones, I look at it. But until then, I don't know. Like, I hope it's going to be out this year.
Awesome. This is the one that I played like 2 years ago, right?
With the little agents and the
yes.
Yeah, it hasn't changed. It's changed since then. Antoine and I have refined it, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to that game. It's been a long, long time, and in fact, it's now been long enough that I just enjoy playing it for fun because we just stopped developing it. I treat it like a published game.
Yes. Ooh. So I guess people are asking about Rob's game. What are you able to talk about now, or what are you not able to talk about? Since people are very curious about Rob's game.
Oh, sure. We're going to start announcing it fairly soon-ish, and I don't want to steal the marketing team's thunder because they have a really cool rollout plan for it. I'm working on a game with Rob Davio. We've been working on it for a long time. It's not a legacy game, I can say that. But it is emphatically not a legacy game. I wanted to sort of access the other side of Rob's creativity with that. We gel very well, and we have a really good working relationship. And so we want to come up with something new and something fresh just between the two of us. That's all I can say.
I can say more. I got to play it, and it was really, really fun, and it's going to be good. And that's all I can say. Let the hype train start rolling.
No hype. It's just a game.
Well, no, I mean it's always been a pleasure having you on, and
this is the bye, Eric. You gotta go.
Oh, I see Tom Lehman. I don't see Tom Lehman anymore. I saw Tom Lehman. He's sitting back there. Let's talk some more.
All right.
until Tom comes over here.
Let's talk about Tom.
Let's talk about Tom.
So Tom, the issue with Tom is that he's just too smart.
Yes, his games are very thinky.
Well, it's not just his games. He himself is an unbelievably smart guy.
Yes.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of meeting him and talking with him several times. He even pitched me some games at here. I love just listening to him talk. Like he's so meticulous and well thought through. You can tell. I don't think he says anything. I can't picture him saying anything like irrational or dumb. Like he's just on point and thought through all the time.
Yes, he is. But you are too. I think in general, like, you have to be smart to come up with these ideas. I mean, you have to really have a lot going on in your head to be able to create these kind of games.
Sometimes too much.
Sometimes no, I would never say that. I think like what you've been doing has been amazing. I mean, when you started making games, did you ever imagine your career arc would go the way it's been?
Oh no, of course not. I mean, how could you, right? Like, I wanted to be in a rock band when I was a teenager. Right? I thought I was going to be some poor writer and destitute like guitarist in a heavy metal band. I'm like, but I've always loved games, right? I just didn't. When I was young, the idea of a career game designer didn't exist at all, right? So, like you were either on staff at TSR or Hasbro, or you'd be like, like Alan Moon or like one of the greats that has a chance of doing freelance. But there's a handful of them in the world.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of us.
I know it's amazing how like being a full-time designer is now a thing, and you wouldn't have thought that 10 years ago even.
Right, it says great things about our industry.
Yes, it does. Oh, I see another quick question here.
Yep.
From someone named Pete. Hi, Eric. Sharks rule, pandas drool.
That's Pete Sherry, who works for Simon. Pete, you're fired.
You heard it here first. We have a Dice Tower exclusive. Pete, you're fired. Oh, here's another one, Eric. We played this game. The Captain Bunny wants to know what's the highest level you've gotten to when playing The Mind.
Oh God, I love that game. I played too much of it. In fact, not with you. I played a game with with Sen and Jay and Phil Walker Harding. Actually, there was three of us, and we were in the zone. I couldn't believe where we got. So I think we got to level 8 without losing a single life. And then level 8 is the last level in a 4-player game. So we're like, we got this. We rule. We have like, I don't know, 5 shurikens or something like that, and 4, 5, 6 life. We're like, we got this. And then cascading death, one after the other. We just died instantly. It was really fun. It was just we were in the zone. We had flow, and then gone.
Yes, I mean, so the game. I think like every day someone has talked about this on the show here even, and I played it now like 5 times. You pulled it out for me the first time, and you were like, "We're gonna play this," and I'm like, "So explain the rules." You're like, "No, we're just gonna play it," and it is so trippy. It's like you just know what's gonna happen. I was watching you, and I'm like, "How are you doing this? How are you getting these cards in the right order? We're not doing anything."
Pretty good.
It's
my favorite. I love ESP games, and so that I actually played last night. I played Decrypto for the first time. I've been looking forward to playing it. Oh, fantastic!
Isn't it?
It's right here. I love those kind of games. I wish I could design them. I mean, I have tons of ideas for them, but I hate them all. I just like. I'm always happy when I find one that I love.
You've done some party-ish kind of deduction. You did Secrets.
Oh yeah, that's not a party game though. That is a chaotic strategy game. I guess it's you call it a social deduction game. Although when we started it, we were just like, we just want to do a hidden teams game. It's a strategy game that just has a lot of chaos, but I wouldn't call it a party game.
I think our fans I'm going to drive them crazy, because if somehow I convince you to do more party games like that, or more games like that, you're not going to be doing any more of these Blood Rage type games.
Well, so there's no guarantee that after this 3rd game I'm going to do any more of those anyway. Like, I don't want to repeat myself.
Sad eyes.
Who needs Blood Rage Part 2? There's Blood Rage exists. So I just want to make games that every game I do, I'm doing fewer of them, has to have a reason to exist.
Yeah.
Right? And so I don't want to be like a pretentious artist guy, like, oh, I never look back, I only look forward. But there's some truth to that, right? Like, to a degree, every game I do in that series is going to compete with Blood Rage or Rising Sun, and I don't want them to compete directly. I want them to all earn their own place on that shelf.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Well, I think we have Tom Lehman at some point. There he is. And Kevin Wilson after, who you also worked with.
Oh yeah, many times. Oh, I mean, Kevin's like my oldest friend in the industry.
Yeah.
We worked together at FFG for God knows how many years. We've got designed a bunch of games together, and now you are about to get an upgrade.
No, lateral move. Come on, Eric, you're awesome, and you know that.
Tom, he called you not an upgrade.
Okay,
That's all right.
maybe
I'm the downgrade. I
Wait,
can be
wait.
the downgrade.
Okay, Eric has given me the chance to slam on him for once when he always slams me. Yes, we're getting a major upgrade, Eric.
Major upgrade.
Get out of that seat so we can get an upgrade over you.
That's
Now,
right.
Do you want Kevin and me together? How do you want
no,
to
no,
do
no,
this?
no, no.
Because we're running short on time.
Don't worry, we're gonna go past 11. It's fine. We're going a little past 11. Don't worry.
Okay.
For those of you who are watching from Canada right now, I'm gonna say we're gonna be at Snakes and Lattes just a little bit late because until I finish this, we're not actually getting in the car to go up to Toronto. But we will be at Snakes and Lattes today, your former hometown.
My former hometown.
Now that you live in Singapore.
Miss you guys.
So those of you in Toronto, we will be up there probably about 1-ish, 1:30. But we're going to be up there. We're coming up to Steaks and Lattes later once I finish this. But let's bring in Tom and talk to him about all of his new stuff.
Okay.
And thank you
ciao.
so much, Eric, for coming on.
Rawr. No, wait, do this, right? No, the new one, right? Unlock. All right, see you guys.
The unlocking twist one.
Have a good one.
Bye, Eric.
You didn't do it with me. I mean, I'm not
He didn't do the fist bump with he didn't do the fist bump with Tom. Tom's not cool enough. No, you are cool, Tom.
It's all right.
So we're
I'm old and stodgy. Is it all right if I have this?
Yeah, of course. So we were talking about how when you make your designs, you kind of have this like genius thing about you that you're really smart at your designs. So what have you? Let's, for the audience who doesn't know who you are, who they should, let's talk about what you've done so people have an idea of who you are.
Sure. I've been doing games. My first game was published in 1992, and I've been a full-time designer since 2007. And I have published about 40 games and expansions now over the years. I'm probably best known these days for Race for the Galaxy and its associated lines like Roll for the Galaxy, Jump Drive, and so on. Plus the pandemic expansions. Matt Leacock brought me on board with to help him with the expansions, which we co-designed. So I've been very fortunate to be part of two different franchises, Pandemic and Race, which keeps me fairly busy. But this year and next year, I'm having a number of games that aren't in either franchise, and that's exciting for me as a designer because that means I get to do things that are fundamentally different.
Yes. Speaking of that, there's a game that I played here last year that's
Probably called New Frontiers.
Yes.
Yes.
How much are you allowed to say about this yet?
Well, we're taking out an ad in the May issue, I think, of Spiel magazine.
Oh, nice.
That says coming soon with the cover image. So I think we're starting to talk about it. And currently we're in the final paste ups. I'm reviewing the final files at the printer, right? The artwork is, 98% done or something like that. We're still, what should a turn order slide be, things like that. The major piece remaining is the final rules, which I am busily slaving away on. So if all that goes smoothly, then it's being produced in the U.S. That one's being printed in the U.S. Some of Rio Grande games, it's a Rio Grande game. Some of them are done in Europe and some of them are done in the U.S. And this one's one of the U.S. ones, which means it'll hit the U.S. stores much faster. So we're expecting maybe mid-June, we might hit Origins. Jay doesn't do his releases around conventions. He does them when they're ready.
Yes.
And he hasn't announced it formally, but I think we're getting to the point where, you can expect to see that.
Yeah, well, you just announced it here. For those of you who don't know, Tom's newest game, New Frontiers, is going to be out probably around June.
June to July. Let's leave it.
Are you allowed to talk
that way.
Are you allowed to talk about the game at all yet?
Sure, I can talk about it a little bit.
Yes.
So this is a game that we credit Andreas Seyfarth on, and we give him, credit, royalty share, and so on, because this is in some sense bringing race full circle. It has the Puerto Rico style of tile selection and action selection, and over the years, I've heard lots of criticisms of race, right? And one of the things that some people have talked to me about is that in race, your cards come in whatever order. It's a card game. and you have to build both sort of an economic engine and a victory point engine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for a lot of people to sort of see both engines and get them out of a random set of cards. And so what some players said is they really wanted the ability that some part of the game was fixed and some part of the game was variable. And that's what we can do when we go to a board game, is we can have all the developments for that particular game out there so that you can see what's on tap for this game. But then the worlds have powers too, and those come out of the bag during your exploration. So you can get a nice mixture of both fixed, I can plan, make plans, go, oh, I'm going to do this strategy this game, and variable, what's going to come from the bag. And I think that's a very neat thing that gives us something different in New Frontiers, in the board game, that's different from the card game. Now for variability, you know, tiles have two sides,
Yep.
right? So that means that we can have a set of developments that are fixed, that are always in play to provide some core structure to the game. And we can have a bunch of developments that have two sides that vary, you know, essentially flip a coin for each of those 8 developments and each of the final big 8, 6 devs,
Yes.
or 9 devs, because the cost is higher, in the game to provide a lot of variability so that it's fixed for the game but varies from each game, and we bake that in right at the very start.
Yes, I mean, I got to play this a year ago. Now, what's funny, sorry, Ignacy, but you're about to hear something that you won't like. When I was doing my top 10 games that I'm looking forward to in 2018, the reason I didn't put New Frontiers on the list is because there was no...
I'm keeping it out.
So Ignacy, hear this story. So here's what happened. I wanted to put New Frontiers on my list so badly because I was so excited for this game, and there was no listing in Board Game Geek because you guys hadn't announced it yet.
Right.
And unfortunately for Ignacy, Detective wouldn't have been number 1. New Frontiers would have been my number 1. Looking forward to in 2018.
I agree.
If only. If only.
Well, hopefully it'll live up to that, but I think Ignacy is a fine designer, and that his game is going to be very good too.
So we have like a draw. Let's call it equal, okay? Like
Yeah. We
Yes.
call it a tie.
We'll call it
yeah,
equal.
that's good.
We'll call it equal.
Equal on the Jason scale.
But but I have to say this, in all seriousness, I was so excited for New Frontiers. I really wanted to put it on my games looking forward to, because the way I would describe it is a little bit of Race for the Galaxy, a little bit of Roll for the Galaxy with the tiles stuff,
Yeah.
with the worlds, and then a lot of Puerto Rico as well, where you have the picking the action, you do it, and everyone else does your action. You have the sort of the building market thing, and you really took a twist and brought it back into the Puerto Rico world, which is my second favorite game of all time.
Right. I mean, there's always challenges when you move a game system from like cards to board and so on. The thing I found is, yes, we got all that benefit of the fixed developments that you can see and make plans, but then I had to adjust all the development prices, because otherwise the development strategies were much stronger than they had been in Race, until I cranked the prices up. So instead of a 6-cost development, it's a 9-cost development, and I had to adjust the number of the powers to make that all work. But I'm excited about New Frontiers. I'm also excited about a product that will come out somewhat at the same time.
Oh!
And here's a sneak preview
Oh,
of that.
I was just about to ask about this. We have a new die here.
That's the Pioneer die from Roll Rivalry.
Roll Rival. Is this a 2-player version?
No, Rivalry is the next expansion to Roll. So we have Ambition and Rivalry
Nice.
as 2 expansions for Roll for the Galaxy.
I see a new blue. Whoa.
And
Okay, let me put this up closer to the camera
Sure.
so people can see. There's a new die here, and
it's heavily biased towards Settle, and it's a dark blue, but still works with the blue worlds.
wow.
So it's the Pioneer die. I think that people will be pretty excited about it.
And this is coming out really soon?
It's the order is complex, because it depends not only on these dice which are done, but on some other custom plastic parts that I'm not going to discuss yet.
Is that
Right.
that's the thing that I heard about a while ago?
Possibly, but it's Rivalry is really 3 expansions in one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this new die, some new tiles, 13 new tiles in the bag, each unique with their own special powers. That's all one part of the expansion. But then there's something I teased recently on BGG, the deal game, and that's another part. And then there's something I'm going to talk about a month from now, which is yet another part of the game. So it's really 3 expansions in one. We're waiting on those custom plastic pieces that I'm not going to discuss yet. We were supposed to have them at the end of March, and now it's looking like it's sliding a little bit.
I think I know. I think I know.
Yeah, but let's not talk about
We're
that.
not going to talk about it, but based on another, I'm gonna do a few
Yeah.
guessing here. Based on another prototype that you were showing off here,
Yes, it uses similar technology. Let's just leave it at that.
you guys are going to really love this new Roll for the Galaxy expansion. I have to tell you, there's going to be some really, really cool things coming for it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that. So those are 2 games in the Roll universe. In Pandemic, I'm no longer the driver, or I never was the driver, but I'm no longer as closely involved now that Matt is full-time. Right? I was partially there because Matt was only part-time until he became full-time in 2014. But there are some things coming there that I've been, helping a little bit on that I'm excited. I can say I did some of the testing and looked over the rules and whatnot for the next limited edition in the Pandemic Survival one. And it's going to be interesting. And that's the one that I'm not a designer, so, I'm not overly biased. And so I think that'll be an exciting game as well. I also have news on the reprint front. The City, which has never been done in English, Fred Eagle Games is doing the City in English.
Oh.
So it was done before in Polish, Dutch, French, and German, but never in English. So we're doing that. We're giving it a new theme, and I did an expansion for it. So that's going to come later this year as well. So we have the City. Do we have any questions from the audience?
We do. We're going to take some tricky ones first. Adar is asking, if you had to describe your own game style, design style in 5 words or less, what would you say? 5 words or less.
Tough decisions with strategic tension.
That was 5 words or less. Amazing. This is why he's a genius right here, just for that. Okay, let's see the next question here. Race for the Galaxy, someone just got into the game and just bought it, and they heard that there's going to be a 2nd edition coming out for Race for the Galaxy.
Yep, and then they asked, should I have just waited? And the answer is no. And the answer is that way for 2 reasons. First off, 2nd edition, well, it depends on whether you have colorblind issues, because we tried to put some colorblind support. We can't do a complete solution because we'd have to completely redo all the icons and everything. But we've added some moons to the red and the green worlds, which were the ones that people were having the most trouble with, in order to help on the colorblind support. Now, there are 5 cards got adjusted in 2nd edition Race, but they will be available as a promo on the BGG store, so you don't have to buy a copy. If you already own Race, you can just go get that promo. Now, there's value in the 2nd edition because the promo Start Worlds, which are currently available on BGG, are in there for free. So we've tried to balance that, make it a nice product for someone who hasn't gotten into Race, while still being, by having these promos, making it very easy for people who already have Race to get the new or adjusted content.
So here's another interesting one from Oliver. One of my favorite endless rules discussions ever was the one people arguing about if it matters in Roll in what order people take the tiles out of the bag and how many.
Well, it only matters, there are 2 answers to that. It only really matters in terms of gameplay if the bag is almost empty, and then we have special rules for what to do, and then you have to slow down and the order matters. For the most part of the thing, random is random, really. It's hard psychologically for a lot of people to recognize that random is random, but the math works out that the order that you pick a tile doesn't matter as long as you're not at the very end of the bag. But there is a psychological barrier there, and some groups, some people just cannot accept that random is random and that the odds didn't change, even though mathematically the odds don't change.
So there you go. There's the official answer on that. The official answer on what order you should take the chips out of the bag.
I think the most important thing is to keep handing the bag to people who want it, right? That you don't want someone to take a tile and then hold on to the bag and slow everyone else down. Is to take a tile, pass the bag, and then you'll get it back when you do your next Explorer.
Exactly.
As you do the dice. I think moving the bag around is the most important part.
Yes, there you go. So that's how you should play it the correct way.
Here's something where both Rio Grande and both Kay Tummelson and I feel whatever a group decides to do with the game, once they buy it, it's their game, right? And so if you have a house rule, there's nothing incorrect about playing a house rule.
Okay, so you guys heard this also. If you guys don't like what Tom designed, just make up your own rules to it.
That's right. I mean, that's perfectly fine. You bought the game. It's yours. You should play it and enjoy it any way you want to.
No, I was more joking about that.
I know. But I'm just, as long as you said the word official, and that's where I go, hey, the official line is, it's your game.
Yes, it's your game, so make up your own rules. Enjoy it and make up your own, however you want to play it.
Right. I mean, if there's a tournament somewhere, then it's a different issue, but,
Then we'll find out the official rules. The next time there's a Roll for the Galaxy tournament, we'll find out the official rules.
But in your house, you're free to do what you want.
One last question.
Sure.
And then I have a question after that.
Shoot.
AW is asking, what is your personal favorite expansion for Race?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. I mean, it's the classic, who's your favorite child sort of question. But I would say that I would give a nod out to Xeno Invasion. It's the last of the current 5, but I think that I managed to get the Alien Invasion to work really smoothly, take up almost no time at all. And if that's how you play the game, but it's still fast and snappy. Whereas with Alien Artifacts, I think the cards are great, but the orb game didn't work for a lot of people, because there's this big slowdown right at the start of the turn. And for Alien Xeno Invasion, I put it at the end of the turn, which helped. And what's been green lit, this is next year, so it's a long time from now, is Xeno Counter-Strike, which one of the things people ask me about Race is, well, I want more of it. I want it to be a longer game. I want to play for a bigger tableau, more victory points. And my answer is always, well, we tested it, we tried varying it, and this is the sweet spot where the game is being decided right at the end of the climax. So I didn't want to make a larger version unless I had a good reason to do so. Well, in Xeno Counter-Strike, I do, because first you get invaded, then if you can fight them off, now you take the fight to them. And that leads to a much longer game where you have this nice two-act structure. First, we get invaded, and second, we go after them. And so I think that's a very exciting part of Xeno Counter-Strike, which will be available late next year.
Yes. So here's my question. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask it. Because, forget Puerto Rico, my number 2 game of all time. My number 1 game of all time is the 18XX series. So obviously 46 came out, and GMT has announced some more games. Just tell me about what's going on in the 18X world.
Well, I'm not the best person to ask about it because while I play 18XX games, I don't play it anywhere near as much as the 18XX hobbyists do. But GMT's doing 2 games, and I've been approached by a couple people to do 1834, which if I ever get it's sort of 98% done, and I need to find some free time somewhere in there to do that last 2% and get 1834 out the door. 1834 is a much more complex than 1846 game, even though the rules are almost identical. Set in New England with historical takeovers, and it's sort of two games in one. It comes with a standard game and a takeover game. Mm-hmm. And the takeover game adds that mind melting, how am I going to assemble these things? Because historically, you had two very different ways of doing takeovers in New England. You had the Boston and Maine, which ended up being one of the big regional railroads there, which would acquire these bankrupt railroads. And then you had J.P. Morgan bankrolling the New York to New Haven, and it was actually the New Haven Railroad originally, and buying up these other ones with just massive amounts of money. And I need to get both of those ways of doing takeovers in the game in order to be historically accurate. And so that's what's exciting about 1834. And maybe I'll find some time somewhere in my schedule to finish it off and go with one of the publishers who's very hot to do an 18XX, which I'm excited about. I'm glad that 1846 has sort of helped bring a little more visibility to the 18XX community and the products, and that GMT now sees it as a viable market that they can put out more products in. And whether they come from me or someone else, I'm still happy about that.
There's only one thing to say: hashtag make 18XX cool again.
Well, maybe we should let Weiwa do it, because he managed to find a way in Rivalry, in the takeover game, to make credit asset swaps sexy and interesting and fun. So maybe if he can make credit asset swaps interesting and sexy and fun, that he could make 18XX, that.
Yes, I'm excited.
Cool in a very nerdish way, that would be Weiwa.
18X has always been cool, but hashtag make 18XX cool again.
Alrighty, I see Kevin very patiently waiting there. Should we turn the floor over to him?
It's a pleasure
Thank you,
having
Jason.
you, Tom.
Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Take care.
Kevin Wilson coming in, legendary designer who has done many things over many years.
His voice is dying.
His voice is dying, so we might keep this one a little shorter than the others, which is fine because I know Tom's probably going to come running in the room going, you went past 11 and we have to go to Toronto. So as Kevin takes a cough drop right as he walks in, which is great. So you have a lot of, for those who don't know, I assume everyone knows who you are, but let's go a little bit, tell about your history so people get an idea of who you are at home.
All right, well, I've been designing games for coming up on 20 years now. I got my start with role-playing games. Worked on the 7th Sea RPG and the Spycraft RPG. And then I moved over to Fantasy Flight Games back when they were a 10-person company. And I worked there for about 10 years, and I got to work on all sorts of stuff there. Arkham Horror, Descent, First Edition, Sid Meier's Civilization, Android, and then after that I've kind of gone freelance for the last almost 6 years now.
Yeah.
And I worked on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shadows of the Past game, Escape from 100 Million BC, X-Files, got a bunch, Mistborn House Wars, and got a bunch of more stuff coming up.
Yes, and the Munchkin CCG
Munchkin
with
CCG.
Eric.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been a lot. So Mutant Ninja Turtles, last time I talked, it was when it was just coming out, and now that we played it, me and Tom both love this game. The dice mechanic, how you roll your dice, but you could pass dice to each side. How did you come up with that? Tell us a little about that.
Well, I wanted a family mechanic in my game. I wanted the turtles to feel like brothers, and I wanted to feel like a team that has been fighting with each other for years, and they know each other's moves and they know how each other thinks. And I got to thinking about, well, how would I do that? How would I give this mechanical impression that that Raph is finishing Donnie's sentences kind of thing. And I came up with the idea that you had your actions, but you would get to share actions with each other, and that was kind of the core idea at this of the whole game. It was almost the first mechanic I had for it.
Yeah. So with the game, obviously you've had a few little mini expansions. Do you have more plans for more things to come out?
They've got another Kickstarter coming up in October, last I heard, which is going to be for City Fall expansion and some other stuff that I don't know about necessarily or can't talk about. You know?
Yeah, yeah. So someone's talking about Perdition's Mouth and how much they like it. So in addition, 1 million BC, or 10,000 BC, it was I really enjoyed that. We played that last year, and it's kind of you go out, you have to explore, and then you have to get back. It's one of those go out, get things, and then get back. And has it been fun working? I mean, obviously IDW has been doing a lot with you lately.
Well, I work with a lot of publishers. Try to stay spread out. You know, just for my own sanity and security. You know, IDW's been great. I worked with them on 5 or 6 games. And Escape from Under Million BC was kind of an old school adventure game, you know, where you're exploring and flipping over tiles, things like that. And that was just kind of like, you know, back to my roots, back to the stuff I'm good at.
Yeah, so Dan's giving you good praise here. He said, Turtles is such a great game. It's a game that allowed me to pass on both Conan and Batman. And I think so too. I think that your mechanic, that family mechanic we talked about, really kicks it up a notch. And of the other cooperative games that have been out there recently, I think that you have the best mechanic.
Oh, thank you. That was, like I said, that was the whole centerpiece of the game, and everything came out of that. Sort of like the technology pyramid was for Sid Meier's Civilization. That was the center idea that everything else came from.
Yes. So the Munchkin CCG, it's hitting stores now, isn't it?
It's been out since February. There's going to be the first expansion is coming out in May, I guess.
Yeah, and that one, you must have had a lot of fun working on it. To go into like someone else's realm, but then make your own game.
Oh yeah, well, and you know, I get to work with Eric, and he's been my best friend for ages. And you know, he got to be the smart one, and I got to be the funny one.
No, you're also the smart one. Why is everyone saying that they're not smart today? You, Eric, everyone. I'm like, we're now doing levels of smartness here. Interesting question here, which I don't know how involved you were, but Florian's asking about Descent with the revival with the app. How involved were you? Were you involved at all? Or did Fantasy Flight do that after you had left?
I was only on first edition Descent. I didn't touch second edition or anything past that point. I worked on, Road to Legend, the original box Road to Legend, and things like that. But once they went to second edition, passed it off to other designers to work on. My feeling was that they didn't really need me hanging over them to try to make a game.
Yeah. Have you thought about working with apps and games and doing more of that?
I've got a few ideas, but it's expensive, and only a few companies really have the capacity for it. So it's really about, bringing it to the right people and having the right moment.
Yes. So, I guess for those who don't know, obviously you worked at Fantasy Flight for a long time, so you're an in-house creator in the team, and now you're doing your own thing. What has the change been like going from working for a company to now being your own person?
Well, not a big deal. I used to work from home a lot anyways, even when I was at Fantasy Flight Games. They always called me the away team.
Mm-hmm.
But the big difference is now I negotiate my own contracts. And so I have to, be up on the legalese and, dicker over royalties and things like that.
Yes.
And that's, it's part and parcel of the extra freedom I get to work with whoever and do whatever I feel like. And it's just a matter of like, do I think this thing can sell? Is this publisher a good fit for me? Things like that.
Yeah.
And other than that, it's about the same process for me.
So designing is the same, but obviously all the back end stuff is very different for those of you who ever thought about kind of working solo and designing games. We have another question here. Kabuki Kid is asking, I assume you may have played D&D, and what version did you cut your teeth on?
It was the basic D&D red box. That was my original, what I first played. My mom bought it for me at JCPenney when I was like 8 years old. And that's my start as a gamer. And I played first edition, second edition, third edition. I was busy during fourth edition, so I didn't really get around to it. And I've done some fifth edition stuff a little bit here and there.
Yeah, I used to play the red box too when I was a kid, and now I guess role playing isn't. I mean, I guess it's still popular, but in the board gaming world, we're kind of been away from it. But there's some games now coming out that have more role playing aspect again. So maybe it's coming back in style for board gamers.
Yeah, we'll see. It's more about like how do you turn the role playing thing into making money, really.
Yes. Let's see, we have a few more questions here. Where is it? How did you prototype your games, and what's the next? So how do you make your prototypes and come up with the ideas, and what's your next big game?
Well, I have basically a laser color printer that I bought with my X-Files royalties, and I just print things out on paper, cut them out. If it's cards, I sleeve them in with magic cards for card backs. If it's a board, I print it on cardstock, and I tape it together with blue tape, blue painter's tape. I just hand assemble everything, and I just quick and dirty is what you want to do. Get it on the table fast. Other than that, it's just I work in InDesign, which is the the industry standard, and that way, when I hand off files to publishers, it's easy for them to work with the materials I give them.
Yeah. Here's another interesting question that just came through. We'll skip the Android one because I'm assuming that you are not working on Android anymore, since that's in-house at Fantasy Flight.
Yeah, I don't own it, so that's all them.
Yeah, but Mark is asking here: is it harder to design for a big IP like Ninja Turtles, or is it harder to make your own original content?
I don't know if either one of those is harder. They're both different challenges. With like a big IP like Ninja Turtles, you want it to feel authentic.
Yes.
You want it to feel like the thing, and that's not an easy thing to do. You have to take kind of the touchstones, the things that everybody seizes on from that IP. You need to make that part of the game.
Yes.
And that can be difficult to do. Whereas if you're making up your own thing, that's a whole different style of work. In that, you have total freedom, but at the same time, it's a lot of extra work. That ground, that foundation isn't laid for you. You have to lay it all by yourself.
Yeah, I can imagine the differences. But when you could make a good game, it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of games for IPs that don't come out well, and you were able to make one that came out very well.
Thank you. I take pride in my licensed stuff. I always try to make it the best game for that IP that I can.
Exactly. So is Athal is asking, are there any upcoming game ideas that you're really excited about?
Let's see, in terms of stuff I can talk about, I'm currently working on a co-op game with Trader that is for based on the comic book called The Stuff of Legend, which is sort of Toy Story meets Saving Private Ryan, and it's sort of like the boogeyman kidnaps the boy into the closet, and the toys go to rescue him. And so you play the toys going into the closet land to rescue the boy. And I feel like I've done some interesting stuff that Trader games haven't really done before with it. And I'm very excited about that one. I think that's going to be a really interesting design that's going to have some fresh takes,
Yes, well, as always, I know I could hear your voices going, so let me let you go because I'm going to have to wrap it up soon anyway, but thank you so much for coming on.
give you the old.
Okay, now I have two different things. Eric gave me the twisting boom, and now me and Kevin got our little heart pump. Heart.
I don't want to get you. Don't want to get you sick, man.
Yes, but it's a pleasure having you on as always, and looking forward to all your new stuff that's coming out. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Jason. Always good talking with you.
Yes. So I'm gonna wrap it up here, guys. It's about that time, and Tom's probably sitting outside in the lobby going, "Where's Jason? We're supposed to be going to Toronto." So I'm gonna say goodbye. And for those of you who do live in Toronto, we'll see you in about an hour and a half or 2 hours. We're looking forward to coming up there to Snakes and Lattes today. And for everyone who's watching, thank you so much for being here all week with me, where I could do interviews with, obviously we had tons of people on all week, and thank you for hanging in there, bringing your questions, and hopefully we'll do something like this next year at the gathering as well. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. This has been Jason Levine for the Dice Tower, and thank you all for watching. Thankfully, Tom's not here yet, but we'll see soon. But do.